Okay, so we get an extensive discussion in the beginning of the Yakel of the appointment of Betzalel, who's in charge of building the Mishkan, and who's his assistant mayor? What? Do you remember? Aliav ben Achisamach Matei Dan. Thank you, Ezra. Welcome, Noah. So the interesting thing is that it's clear from the Psukim that Betzalel and Aliav have a team, right? They are the chief architects of the Mishkan, but they have advisors. Not advisors. They have assistants. The Psukim tell us that anybody who knew how to sew, anybody who knew how to build, anybody who knew how to dye, anybody who was Chacham Lev in any of these things, so they came, and in addition to the fundraiser of funds of gold and silver and chelet and argaman and the materials and etc., they also dedicated their expertise and their time to work on the Mishkan. And we don't know specifically by any given kli in the Mishkan who built what. Right? We know that Betzalel is the architect, but we have no idea by the average kli, by the average cloth, the average drape, whatever, which person in the extensive Mishkan building team actually bothered building it, was actually in charge of doing the work, and presumably it was a team effort. But there is one exception, and this is something that Rav Bazak points out in his. I was trying to find something I hadn't said on Vayaka Pekudei in the last year or so, and I had Vayaka Pekudei, I had 35, 36 Yom and Wayutera between them. So I've talked about a lot of things I like talking about, so I had to find something new. So this is a very nice little book by Rav Bazak, where he notes that it's called Nekudot P'ticha. And he says there's one exception. Right? By everything in the Mishkan, you have Vayasu, in Perek Lamed Vav, Vayasu Kol Chacham Lev Bosev Lacha in Mishkan Esiriyot. Anybody who was smart and knew how to make it, so they made the Yiriyot. Vayas Yiriyot Izim. Plural. There were multiple people involved in making curtains. Vayat Michsel Oel, Vayas Et Akrashim, Vayat Et Parochet. Now, later on, there is an implication that most of the kelim were made by Betzalel because it switches from plural to singular. Vayad et mizbach haktores, vayaz et mizbach haolam. And the Ibn Ezra thinks that, in fact, Betzalel was the only one who made any of the kelim. All the volunteers, besides for Betzalel, they made the curtains and things like that, but the kelim themselves were made by Betzalel. But the Ramban argues that it's not true. Maybe each of the other kelim were made by a single person, but not necessarily Betzalel. There's only one thing in the Mishkan that we know was made by Betzalel alone, and that is the Aron. Right? Vayas Betzalel et Ha'aron. And the Ramban thinks that this is Dafka. Right? That in fact, all the other kelim were made by whoever, but the Aron was not made by all the experts who came to volunteer their time and efforts. It was made by Betzalel, and the Ramban argues that this is not just because he was the best at building. There was a spiritual reason for it. Ba'avur shehu malei ruach Elohim b'chokhma v'tvuna u'v'dat sheitbonein bo v'senu b'chavana retzuya ki ein ba'maseh v'munah gdolah. He said, look, it can't be that the Aron needed Betzalel for practical reasons, because he said it's basically simple. It's a gold box with a wood box. The way Chazal understand it, it's a gold box with a wood box and another gold box. But fundamentally, it's a box. Right? Anyone who's half competent at construction can make a box, even 3 boxes, whatever it is. So it can't be that the one kli, which the Torah goes out of its way to say it's made only by Betzalel, is because of the technical skill necessary. So he says it must be that spiritually, Betzalel had to be the one, you want to come up, Ezra? Had to be the one to build the Aron. So why? So you could just say at a simple level that the Aron is the holiest. It holds the luchot. It's in the Kodesh HaKodashim. So it needs the person about the Torah, about whom the Torah says that he was imbued with the Spirit of God. That's who has to build the Aron. But there also is another possibility. So here, Rav Bazak notes that there's another interesting thing. By every other one of the Kalim, the Torah goes out of its way by all the other Kalim, when Moshe gets the instructions to build the Kli, he gets it in the singular. Vasita shulchan, asita yiriyot. Dafka, the Aron, which, as we've already proved, is the only one that we know is only built by Betzalel. The Torah, when it gives its description, says v'asu, plural. Right? So you have this very strange tension that's created. On the one hand, it's the only Kli that the Torah says explicitly is built only by Betzalel. But it's also the only Kli that the Torah tells us, when it's commanding us to build it, you, plural, should make it. Now that paradox indicates that there's something very strange going on that the Torah is trying to teach us about the Aron. So here you could take it in different ways. Rav Bazak takes it the following. He thinks that actually in Pshat, every other Kli, Hashem instructed exactly how it should be built. But by the Aron, the Torah never says that you should make it bitavnitam asher ata mareh bahar. It never says you should make it exactly as I say, exactly as I showed you. So he says in Pshat, the Aron Dafka is, God says, ironically, even though it's the Morris Kadosh, I want you to do it in your own expression of creativity. And if that's the case, Rav Bazak says, you say v'asu because it's the one that expresses human creativity in general. Now it's true that Betzalel in practice did it because he's the only one who has enough spiritual creativity, as it were, to create it. But Dafka here, he's representing Klal Yisrael with their contribution to the Aron. At a drash level, he argues that it could be that it's less about creativity in terms of the Aron, but it's more about what the Aron represents. That the Aron of all the Kalim represents Torah. And by Torah, there's this importance, especially in Torah Sheba'al Peh, of the contribution of mankind. And what he argues is that the reason the Aron, Dafka, needs Betzalel, and is Dafka plural, is because the Torah is the Aron, which represents the Torah, is the place where God most wants our contribution. So God says, I don't want you just to make this Kli, I want all of you collectively to contribute to what the Aron represents. I want you to be involved in the creation of Torah. But in order to get across the message that in order to properly be involved in the creation of Torah, you need to invest all your spiritual energies, in practice, the person who made it was Betzalel, about whom we know he was given special God-given gifts of spiritual creativity, of Chacham Lev and the like. So, taken together, what seems to be olef from this is that the Aron is this paradox. On the one hand, it's the one that most represents all of Klal Yisrael. But on the other hand, in practice, it has to be the one which is done by Betzalel, to emphasize that on the one hand, the Torah needs human creativity, all of Klal Yisrael involved, but on the other hand, in its ideal form, that human creativity has to be at its highest level, and Betzalel is the person who encapsulates those abilities that human beings have. And then Rav Bazak argues that it might be specifically that the Torah Shebaal Peh is where that becomes manifest. Because while the Aron may contain the Torah Shebechtav, symbolically it represents all of Torah, which includes the Torah Shebaal Peh, which definitionally requires that unique contribution of mankind. So those are some pshat, drash, thoughts on the Aron, the making of the Aron and the Torah. You're stealing my recorder, Ezra. That's not nice. Boys, you want to say hello one more time, and then we'll call it a day for Parsha, and then I'll send another text for the guys in my shir for shir. Here, guys, say hello. Ezra, say hello. Hi. Mary, you want to say hello? Aron? Okay, talk to you guys later.